Hi everyone, I'm Zainab, your go-to family mediator and divorce coach, and I'm here to make divorce less confusing. So let's talk about spousal support. As we all know, divorce is more than just a breakup. It's a practical and often messy side of ending a shared life, and that includes dividing money, parenting roles, and responsibilities after years of building them together. And when one partner has depended on the other financially, spousal support becomes part of that story. I'm here to break it down for you. Plain language, no fluff, and all the real life context you need. So, what is spousal support? It's money paid by one spouse to the other after separation. It could be a periodic monthly payment or a lump sum. The main reason is to help balance the financial impact of the relationship breakdown on both parties. Divorce or separation can leave one partner at a real disadvantage, especially if they relied on the other person's income, gave up career opportunities, or raised kids full time. The main goal of spousal support is to recognize those contributions and ease the financial fallout. It exists to help balance the scales, so both partners can move forward with some stability. The main idea is that each party has an obligation to provide support for themselves and the other person, to the extent that they can, and it is based on the means of one person and the needs of the other in that sense. Everyone seems to have an opinion on who should or shouldn't get spousal support. But before we go there, let's talk about eligibility. If you are legally married, you have what's called standing. That means you're allowed to apply for spousal support under the law. But you don't have to be married to qualify. You could still be eligible if you were in a common law relationship, meaning you and your partner lived together continuously for at least 3 years, or lived together in a relationship of some permanence and had a child together. So in short, you can apply if you're married, in common law for 3+ years, or have lived together with a child involved. Alright, so let's say you're eligible to apply. That's step 1. But step 2 is just as important. Do you actually have entitlement to receive spousal support? Because just being eligible to apply doesn't automatically mean you will receive support. Entitlement is all about the why. Why might support be appropriate in your situation? And there are 3 main grounds for entitlements, and having even one is enough. Here's what they are. Contractual entitlement is the most straightforward. It's based on something you and your partner agreed to in writing, like a marriage contract or separation agreement that includes spousal support. Compensatory support is based on sacrifices made during the relationship. Non-compensatory support is based on financial need after the separation. So let's break it down further. Compensatory support is meant to acknowledge the real-life sacrifices one spouse made that still impact them after the separation. So what does that look like? Staying home to raise kids, turning down career opportunities, moving cities to support your partner's job, helping your partner through school or training. Even something like working part-time instead of full-time, or taking a few years off can have lasting effects on income, job growth, and career stability. Compensatory support says what you contributed had value, and that value deserves to be recognized. So if your professional life took a backseat so your partner's career could move ahead, this kind of support is about balancing the scales a bit. Now, not every relationship involves big sacrifices. Sometimes both partners worked full-time, nobody gave up a career, but that doesn't mean there's no hardship after the separation. This is where non-compensatory support comes in. Let's imagine a scenario. Let's say Lily and John were married. Together, they had a combined household income of $200,000. Not bad, right? But here's the thing. Lily made $150,000 and John made $50,000. So after the separation, John's income doesn't go as far. That's a huge drop in lifestyle for him. A steep drop. He didn't make any major sacrifices during the relationship, but now he needs time to get back on his feet. Non-compensatory support acts like a parachute. It's meant to soften the landing and give someone breathing room during a tough transition. This kind of support is needs-based. If someone can't maintain a basic standard of living on their own, especially compared to what they were used to, this support might come into play. Because let's be honest, the financial fallout is a lot harder for someone making $50,000 than someone making $150,000. And that brings us to something that often gets misunderstood. Spousal support isn't meant to last forever, especially when we're talking about non-compensatory or transitional support. The goal is simple: to help the lower earning spouse get back to a reasonable standard of living. That might mean going back to school, re-entering the workforce, or taking some time to rebuild confidence and financial independence. In short, transitional support is like a helping hand, lifting you up the stairs during a tough time to a stronger future. The Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines, or SSAGs, are helpful guidelines to get a sense of direction that may require adjustments based on your unique situation. These guidelines take into account a variety of factors, which you will discuss in the next slide. The guidelines help calculate a rough estimate of what support might look like in terms of both amount and duration. But here's the thing: SSAGs are just that, guidelines. Every relationship and separation is different, and the courts will always look at the specific details of your case. That means while the guidelines can be a starting point, they won't necessarily give you the final answer. This is where professional support comes in. Working with a lawyer or a mediator who understands family law is essential. They can help you interpret these guidelines in the context of your situation and ensure that the support you're working toward is fair for both parties. When it comes to calculating support, a few key factors come into play. We look at how long the relationship lasted, the age and health of both parties, income and earning capacity of both parties, the role each party had during the relationship, and the parenting time arrangements after separation. When it comes to calculating spousal support, the guidelines usually provide a range, low, mid, and high, rather than a single number. It is because every case is different and the court looks at the circumstances of the relationship, the roles each person played, the advantages and disadvantages each party walks away with. The ranges give you a sense of how spousal support might look depending on your situation. That is because spousal support is never one size fits all. When it comes to how long spousal support lasts, there isn't one single answer, but there are some helpful guidelines that courts often look at. Let's break them down into 3 simple rules. First, the duration-based rule. This one's more common in shorter relationships. Usually, the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines suggest that support lasts half a year to 1 year for every year you live together. So for example, if the relationship lasted 10 years, support might last somewhere between 5 and 10 years. That's why the calculator shows a range, not a single number. The second is the rule of 20, and the last one is the rule of 65. Let's break those down. Rule of 20 implies that if your relationship lasted 20 years or more, support is usually considered indefinite. Now let's talk about the rule of 65. Here's how it works. If you add your age and the number of years you live together, and the total is 65 or more, you might qualify for indefinite spousal support. Why does that matter? Well, a 10-year relationship looks very different if you're 60 than it does if you're 30. At 60 years old, there is less time to rebuild financially, retrain, or re-enter the workforce. so the law tries to account for that. It's important that indefinite doesn't mean forever. It means there is no end date defined at the time the support is ordered. It can still be reviewed, adjusted, or even terminated later, depending on changing circumstances. Think of it more like open-ended support rather than permanent. It's one more reason to get proper legal guidance because your age and stage of life matters. Having said all that, please remember, these are all just general guidelines, not hard rules. The final decision always depends on your specific situation, but knowing these three can give you a helpful starting point. The actual duration depends on your specific circumstances. Things like your age, health, earning potential, and whether kids are involved can all shift the timeline. To get clarity on the amount and duration that applies in your case, it's important to speak with a family lawyer. They can help you understand what's more realistic based on your situation. When it comes to taxes and support, spousal support payments are usually tax deductible for the payer and taxable for the person receiving them. But if it's a lump sum payment, it's typically tax neutral. That means there's no tax benefit for either side. But to be sure, always check with an accountant so there are no surprises come tax season. So lump sum or monthly payments? There are pros and cons to both. A lump sum is a one-time payment. It's bigger upfront, but it can bring closure and a sense of finality. It also creates more space to negotiate that final number and move on. Monthly payments, on the other hand, are more manageable in the short term. They also offer flexibility. So if circumstances change, like a shift in income or employment, support may be adjusted. But here's the catch. Monthly payments can also mean ongoing involvement and may lead to future conflict. At the end of the day, it really comes down to what makes sense for your situation, emotionally, practically, and financially. Everything we've discussed here is just the beginning. Spousal support is more than just numbers. Mediation helps you find the balance, so you're not just following a rule book, but instead creating a solution that feels right for both of you as you move forward. Thank you so much for watching. If this video helped make things a little easier to understand, give it a like and hit subscribe so you don't miss future videos that could make divorce less confusing for you.